Hello, Herlighters. It's Erin Foley back in the booth talking women's sports. I hope everyone had an awesome Labor Day weekend. My partner Sarah and I and our dog Jeter are in Florida, the great state of Florida, something like that, visiting some family, watching a ton of US Open and Paralympics. So I'm in sports heaven right now. By the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, the background totally changed because I did the interview in LA via Zoom and now in Florida. I did wear the same shirt though. So I don't know if you picked that up. This is so ridiculous. I might even edit this part out. Who knows, people? It is a Sunday morning and I'm recording the beginning and ending of this episode in my partner's parents' bedroom. So, hey, happy Labor Day. All right, listen, let's get to the good stuff. I have an awesome guest this week. It's Jen Barnes, the owner of Rough Tumble, the pioneering women's sports bar in Seattle. She was so fun to talk to, so personable, and just a champion of women on and off the field. She shares the story of how the bar came to be, how Seattle was the perfect place for it, and gives us some fun insights to like the customers, the rabid sports fans, what they're drinking, what they're eating. So much fun. It just brought me a lot of joy knowing that there's this amazing place that women can go to and watch every sport in a fun, safe environment, which is truly, honestly, really hard to find. This just happened to me last week. I flew from Florida to New York to perform at the School of Visual Arts in New York City. And the show was super fun. I say the kids were really fun because literally they're like 18-year-olds. It's like their freshman orientation and they're just adorable. So the show was fun. And afterwards, I had a ton of energy and I just wanted to go to a bar, have a drink, watch the US Open. I was specifically looking for, I think it was like the Madison Keys match. And also the Liberty were playing the Sparks at the same time. I'm like, great, 2 for 1, let's do this. So I passed a bunch of bars that weren't playing either event. And then I passed a couple that they were playing the US Open, but it was like all dudes. And, maybe it would have been fine to go in but it was like 10 o'clock, which I know is early for New York, but I just didn't want to deal. And this scenario happens every day in every city, right? There's not enough places where, as a woman, one, I can walk in and watch women's sports, and two, not worry about a guy's like, acting weird or just drunk screaming at the TV. And that's why Rough and Tumble is so incredibly special and needed throughout this country and throughout the world. And the cool thing is that I'm seeing more and more announcements of women's sports bars opening. And it's women like Jen Barnes we have to thank. She had no blueprint, right? She just trusted her gut and got it done. You're going to love her. And also, her lighters, there's a surprise announcement at the end of the interview. So stick around for that. Okay, let's do it. Let's jump in. Okay, Rough and Tumble, Seattle's pub for women's sports. Was this always the dream? Talk us through like the origin story and how this incredible place came to be.
Origin story is like it literally is a light bulb moment. I think so many of us like hope to have light bulb moments in our lives and it just eludes us. I was lucky enough to like know exactly when this one was. And it was, the end of the NWSL season and our team, which is the Rain, they were in the semifinals in late 2021. And I got up on that. I think it was a Sunday morning. I got up on that Sunday morning. I was like, oh my gosh, this one for sure. This one will get played at the pubs, right? And like I really did. Like I'm like, of course, this is a big game. At least that one will level up. And I was very upset to find out around after calling a bunch of them that nobody was really playing it. Some people didn't even know who the team was. Found a place that was going to play it, but only after the out of market football game that was assigned to that same screen was over. It was just the inequity was glaring that day, and I just wanted to go have someone pour me a cold beer and have some nachos or a burger and cheer with my friends. And it was astonishing, absolutely astonishing to me that at the end of 2021 that this was still an issue. We knew you couldn't watch women's sports in places, right? You're always getting ridiculed or put on the last TV at the back of a restaurant or whatever. But This one just seemed particularly negative to me. And I was just could not stop talking about it. My partner was like, "Well, why don't you do something about it? Why don't you do something about it?" I was like, "Oh my gosh, go open a place and play women's sports? What? Nobody's ever done that before." And at the time, nobody had. So I mean, like literally the next day, I was thinking about names and out filing an LLC and all the things you do. And then I try to talk myself down off this ledge, right? Because I mean, it's October 2021. We're coming out of COVID. Restaurant world got obliterated. And I was like, well, maybe I should have a 401k plan and just, stay in the corporate world. I kept doing a few more interviews. I was kind of switching jobs at that point, and I just couldn't. This was too big. This was too right. And so I talked myself right back into it and started building this out and opened it December of 2022.
So you had this idea in October of 2021 and it
Yeah.
was open by December of 2022?
Yes. And the goal had originally actually been to open it by July. But the first location that I had identified, I just ultimately decided it wasn't quite big enough. And so I was really bummed because I was really stressed at that point that, I mean, you could feel the momentum of women's sports was just, it was a rocket ship, right? I was taking off and I was like, oh my gosh, if I don't get to market, somebody else is going to do this. Like, this is too good of an idea. Um, and then ultimately, the sports bra actually opened ahead of me because at the time when I first came up with this idea, there was nothing else in the world. I had nothing to model myself after. There was no proof of concept, etc. Then the sports bra opened in Portland a couple months before me, and it was just so cool to look back and go, oh my gosh, there were two of us thinking about doing this at the same time. We just didn't know each other. And so yeah, by the time I had talked myself back into it, it was March. So it was February, March. So between February and March of 2022 and December 2022 is really the bulk of when the execution of the idea actually happened. It was very fast, very tired.
I'm exhausted for you and it's open and it's running. That timeline to me is absolutely insane. That is incredible. And I was thinking the whole time, like, yeah, when did the sports bra open? Like, technically, I guess it opened like, yeah, a couple months before you
April.
did it, but
Yeah, just a
it
couple.
essentially same timeline. That's
Same
pretty
timeline.
uncanny.
Yeah.
Pacific Northwest, like two women had these ideas,
Yeah.
but your execution, holy crap. So what were you doing before?
So before I had spent really like the prior 20, 25 years in the corporate world. Um, you know, kind of all at upper management level. A lot of I did a lot in the legal world for a long time, so I was running law firms. And then after that, it was really it was a startup kind of world. So different industry sectors. I'm kind of industry sector agnostic, but what I do really love is growing businesses, and so that's what and really from like that COO kind of level. And so I had a lot of that operational background over multiple different businesses and different industry sectors. So that kind of like hands on, being able to do all the different things and having a general understanding of project, project management and people and marketing, all those things weave together. So it's all the same. You just have to switch industry sectors. And I had actually my family was in the food industry business when I was growing up. So I helped, I grew up in that business and then moved into food service and used to manage, but it was just a long time ago. So
It's
some things have changed and some things haven't.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's so interesting because I love hearing people's backstories and like moments where they made this like ultimate like amazing life decision. But it just seems like it was, sort of building like it's like
Yeah.
like a talent stack, like all your talents from CEO, business world,
Yeah.
food, beverage, upbringing, your love of women's sports. I mean, it's like a
Yeah.
beautiful intersection of like all things Jen Barnes. That's so cool.
Yeah. That's exactly what happened. And who would have thought? I mean, a couple of years ago, so I helped build a renewable energy company. So it was a solar company. I did that for about 6 years. And when COVID hit, there was a big reduction in staff and a lot of things changed there. So I took sort of that year and a half or 2 years during COVID to just reassess what was I doing? What was bringing me joy? I think so many of us did. When you are hit like smacked in the face with the fact that like all of us could die in 2 weeks, very literally, right? It Every single human being I know kind of stopped to think like, what am I doing with my life? And we saw obviously that massive career transitions and people following their hearts and that kind of thing. And I didn't know what I was going to do next. I knew I wanted to run my own business, but this concept was certainly not really part of it. So yes, it all came together.
Yeah. All right. So you have this business background. Obviously, you have a lot of experience in that and you have this idea, but what made you think like this idea could be a viable business in Seattle?
Well, okay. So first and foremost, Seattle is a huge women's sports city. I say it's the best women's sports city in the world. We have professional teams, we have semi-pro teams, we have men's professional and semi-pro teams that are incredibly supportive of. We have really, really strong collegiate teams, including D1. So, it's and the teams on the pro side, on the women's pro side, have been here for a long time. So, the Storm's one of the oldest teams in the league, and prior to that, I mean, like the first pro women's basketball team, which was the ABL League, was called the Reign. The Seattle Reign soccer team is actually named in honor of that first women's basketball team. But I mean, like, back in the day, I used to sit around with the women who helped start the Reign and try to figure out how to bring women's professional basketball to Seattle. So this has been something that's been growing for a long time. So the city is absolutely the perfect place for something like Rough and Tumble. The fan base is already here. I knew it was going to be embraced. There was no question. The biggest reason is like there is a massive void. The fact that places like this are abnormal and that this is so unusual means that there is a void that is going to get filled. And so it literally was that. It was just like, everybody kind of came right over here. But from a revenue projection kind of standpoint, I think there was certainly a lot of questions about that. Like, nobody watches women's sports, or is anybody going to like actually show up? Are you going to make any money? Are you going to lose your hat? All of those things were certainly questions that I had to address. But, the timing was so great because, as women's sports were like perfectly poised to take advantage of some of the positives coming out of COVID. And one of those positives was, although most women's sports were mostly viewable on streaming, we were all at home with a lot more subscriptions than we normally had. And so we were, the world started watching women's sports because they were accessible at levels that we hadn't really done before. So all of a sudden we had a lot more data, it was a lot more trackable, and those studies were starting to come out, and a lot of them were getting published just right about the time that I was looking to build out my business plan. And so I was able to, thank goodness, have some data to work with. But yeah, it's what's really astounding is how much we know now that we didn't know even a year and a half ago, and how much has changed in the women's sports industry sector. We all saw it coming, but I have these very marked moments in time, here in this space within these walls. Certain number of people showed up or didn't show up to a certain game, and so I can look back now. Now that we're alive for over a year and a half, we've gone through a full cycle of all the women's, games and leagues and that kind of thing. And so it's just really exciting. So how did I know? Gut instinct, for sure. Certainly understanding the women's sports, fan base here in the city. But I think the Pacific Northwest has really led much of the national and even international women's sports stuff. And the Aces, the Angel Cities, the Liberties, the Lynx, those teams wouldn't have what they have today if it weren't for so much of what the Seattle women's sports industry has built. And so I don't know, it seemed it I knew it was gonna work.
Yeah, it also just now that you're up and running and it's successful, it just really seems like a no-brainer. But to have
Right.
that vision and to have like the guts, to be like, no, this is it. I'm betting on women's sports is just, it's so cool. And like, look what happens. Look what we're
Yeah.
seeing now. And
Yes.
I was thinking about you the other day too, because you hear all these stats of just like women's sports are exploding. And I'm like, this is so great for all the women's sports bars and all this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've been tracking this for like 30 years,
Right. I know. Like,
it
right. This
just,
is
you
not a
see, yeah,
moment. Yeah.
I'm like, okay, it started with this. Like, I could give you 25 examples of just like,
Yes.
this incremental change that it's building and building, but it's just so exciting that you did it. You put it down, you put the flag down, you did it. And now the rise, obviously, do
Yeah.
you feel like now you can sleep at night, or do you feel like it's just going to be a stress case until the day you close the doors?
Um, I mean, yes, I'm sleeping at night. It was sketchy the first 6 months. I mean, the biggest thing is a restaurant is so human based. It relies upon customers coming in. It requires multiple staff members with many different skill sets to come in. Like, if we can't cook the food, there's no food to serve. If the bartender, hurts themselves or whatever, like somebody has to serve beer, right? And so places like Rough Tumble really require um, both the customers to come in, but the staff to also be able to be present for the experience as well. And I think, and then things like compressors on your walk-in coolers just break, in the middle of summer, and things like that, right? There's a lot of variables. It's a lot more challenging to manage all of these different variables in a normal restaurant environment than an office environment. And then you add in women's sports, which the women's sports industry sector is changing so drastically almost every 2 weeks right now that what we knew to be true in women's sports even 3 months ago or 6 months ago is not something that you can necessarily replicate again. And so our business model, what we do, what we expect, how we plan for something as simple as how many tortillas to buy for the chips next week has to be thought about in terms of the women's sports industry sector, what games are coming, which leagues are starting, what the latest, hottest athlete moment is. And that really informs so many of our decisions. So yeah, I don't know. I'm going off on a tangent. It is a really exciting thing to be in. And I think one of the coolest parts about like the Rough and Tumble pub environment and the women's sports focused bar environment or restaurant environment is what an important part we play in the wheelhouse, the machine of women's sports, because we're helping build fan base. We're literally making it possible for more people to watch women's sports, to learn, about a new sport or fall in love with it or get to watch their favorite player more often. And, I think, I don't know, it's a very holistic giving, taking kind of relationship that we all have in the women's sports sector. And I love it. I'm going off on a tangent though. So
No, I love this.
I could
I
talk
want
about
to.
it forever.
Oh, believe me, I could talk to you forever. That's going to be the
Yeah.
problem. Be like, it's 7 o'clock. There's 25 customers sitting
Yes.
at the table while you're doing the podcast. Um, Talk to me about, because it's just kind of fascinating.
Yeah.
Like, are there different types of crowds like per
Yes.
sport?
Oh,
Like,
yes.
that's so interesting to me.
It
Talk
is.
us through
It
that.
is. It is. It's very interesting. And I mean, you can literally, we know during certain portions of the year now, or certain games are coming up, like we know how to even order, like there's the IPA crowd, there's the hazy IPA crowd, there's the vodka crowd, there's the cocktail groups. Like everybody drinks differently based upon what sport they're watching. I mean, it is categorically true. There's also, I mean, here's a really great example.
I was going to say, please give me examples, specific
We'll
examples.
give you a specific example. So we're a home to many people in the running community. So professional runners, racers, marathoners, sprinters, A lot of the runners come in here. We did a morning watch party for the Olympic marathon trials, the US Olympic marathon trials. So it was like, I think we opened at 6 or 7 in the morning for it. And, think about the marathon. Like in my mind, I'm like, okay, a marathon, I'm going to be running all day. I'm going to get up in the morning, or you'll see me tomorrow night, right? Nope, it's over in 2 hours and 20 minutes. It's like, so we were able to fit in an entire watch party before our normal brunch open hours at 10 a.m. We kind of guessed it was going to be a relatively healthy crowd. I've never sold so much avocado toast in my life. I mean, it was like 150 people ordered avocado toast. It was so funny. No beer at all. But then, like the women's soccer crowd is very, very micro brew focused, very like hazy IPAs, lots of hazy IPAs. Middling on the healthy kind of front, more protein than not. Yeah, it's very, it's really interesting.
Lot of chicken.
Yeah, a lot of chicken. The NWSL crowd is very, and the WNBA crowd, but NWSL more than the women's soccer, more than anyone else, very kid friendly, very probably one of the more age diverse groups of fans. And then I think honestly one of my favorite crowds is the NFL fan base. And like Rough Tumble is this home for what has become like a really, really awesome women's NFL fan base. And that's something the NFL is looking to grow. They've gotten on board a little late, but Taylor Swift told them they could do it, so they did. But these NFL fans have been around for a long time, but it's really unenjoyable in a lot of cases to go into kind of a classic sports bar environment that has a lot of toxic male traits going on. And so to come here, it's like I often hear, oh my gosh, I can just relax and yell at the game instead of being told I'm screaming too loud or having some guy mansplain, what a first down is. These women come here and they just have, you'll get like 10 or 12 women coming together. They'll drink pitchers of mimosas and scream at this game. And they know more stats and more facts and, more about every player on the team than I've ever heard any guy ever talk about. These are like really cool little nuggets of community. And hockey crowds are awesome. And there's a difference between the men's hockey crowd and the PWHL crowd, but like this place will fill up at almost the same for both. And we don't even have a PWHL team here yet. So yeah, they're all different. And
I
so
love
great.
It's I also was wondering if you played men's sports. I think I had read that, which is great because like honestly, as a woman, like because women's sports weren't, I mean, I played everything, but I couldn't see it, right? Like all we had growing up was like tennis and Olympics, literally for so long, right?
So long, yeah.
And then finally, like, oh God, some soccer. And then I would say in the last, I started an original podcast in like 2014, was barely able to see women's sports, right? But, slowly ESPN, slowly. But two quick thoughts. I was thinking one with football, because that was like my first love, because I watched it every Sunday with my dad.
Yeah, I did. I loved it.
I love it. And I still love it. I have tried multiple times to go to bars to watch football, and just, I mean, 2 or 3 times I like stopped right away because it was so horrible. It was so horrific.
So horrible. Yeah.
And the fact that you have this place where people can go and just literally as a woman just feel comfortable. And that's huge. People don't understand that.
I don't even know how to verbalize it well enough, because I want to explain how different watching an NFL game is here at Rough Tumble than whatever normal sports bar. But I don't want to sound like a man hater, because I'm not. And
exactly.
But what is not acceptable and what isn't okay is for anybody to go into any environment and feel unsafe, uncomfortable, etc. And so, that's really the problem. That's the toxic masculinity side of things, that unfortunately, in particular in the NFL, I think has been something that's just been promoted. Um, and so, we have some incredible fan. I've only had to 86 two people in a year and a half. So
that was one of my
yeah, no, I
questions.
mean, I mean, in addition to amazing like women sports fans, amazing women fans of men's sports, we have a lot of guys who come in here, whether they're watching women's sports or men's sports, doesn't matter, who also really hate that environment, like most of us do, and don't like going there, but they come here because they're like, oh, I don't have to deal with that, you know? So yes, we play, and that was, I mean, thinking back to my original part of the story here, where I couldn't watch the rain game because it was um it was coming on after an out of market Seahawks, or I think it was a Browns game. Um, but like that idea that you could watch both, like I would have loved back then to be able to watch football on one screen and the NWSL game on another screen. And what I didn't want was to create even more division. And I wanted to, even if it took engineering, get to, that's what equity is about, right? I wanted to get to the point where even if we had to engineer it, that there was equality on the screens. And so that was really my point. And selfishly, yes, I wanted to be able to watch both, but a lot of my friends are just sports fans. We
Yeah.
like watching baseball. We like watching football. We like watching college football. We love watching the WNBA. And so I think all of those things can coexist equally. And I also feel, one of the biggest worries that I had in opening this place was that men would feel unwelcome, because a lot of good men are thoughtful about whether or not they're welcomed into a place that maybe was created to provide some modicum of space for women, right? And I wanted to make sure that men felt as welcome as women here, because one, I just like to see everybody together. And two, everyone is a women's sports fan, right? But as we are working as a community, as an industry sector to build the women's sports fan base, it's not going to happen with 51% of the population. We have to do this all together. So, there's multiple reasons, but I really think when it comes down to it, like this place I purpose built for equality. And yes, so I play all the sports. It's a lot of fun. And you can watch both games on the screen, starting what we're 2 weeks away from the NFL season and getting ready to start our first fantasy football draft, and it'll be
So
really
cool.
fun.
No, I love
Yeah.
it too. I love it because there are like, of course, there's really great guys out there,
Yeah.
and that I would just normally assume like a guy that's going to like a quote unquote a women's sports bar to watch football. That's the kind of guy I want to watch football with.
It's,
You know
oh
what I mean?
yeah, it's like
I
such a
love
great culture.
talking to I love
Yeah.
talking to my dudes about football and my women,
Yeah.
but it's just my women. It sounds like I have a harem.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
my
they're
women,
harem. You're all your women.
Baron Foley women.
Yeah,
Um,
you're
but
Aaron Foley women.
it's just that one, it's just that type of bro where you're like, oh my God, the screaming. And I had to stop full on going. I'm like crazy New York Giants fan. I had to
Yeah.
stop going to the games, the actual games when I lived in New York because it was so gross. And I was like,
Ugh.
this
Uh,
blows. So I didn't even think of, I've shut down sports bars. I mean, for the amount of sports I watch, and my partner's like,
yes, I know.
please take a break. Um,
Yes.
when people are like, oh, hey, let's go out and watch it, my first response is I literally go, oh, no, I don't watch sports in public. Honestly, I say that all the time
Well,
because
you should move to Seattle.
yeah, obviously I need to move to Seattle. When you were describing the atmosphere of your bar, I was like, can I live there? Can I just
Yes.
crawl? Can I put a mattress underneath the pool table? Is that
Aaron,
acceptable?
then we've actually had at least a handful of people now who've come to visit just for travel. Because I mean, this place is so special, right?
Yeah,
People literally plan their vacations from around the world to come to Seattle because their whole focus is to go to Rough Tumble. Like that, they're going to do their Rough from Australia, right? Like
amazing.
this is amazing. But we've actually now had a handful of people who come to visit and then moved to Seattle because they came here and wanted to be able to keep coming here.
I'm gonna
That's
cry. I'm welling
I
up. That's
know, I
so
know.
feel good.
So
That's so I'm going down, Jen. I'm
I
going
know.
down.
That
That's
happens all the time.
I love it. You've
There's
created
not
like an
a
environment
yeah.
of such a wonderful environment. That's so
Yeah,
awesome.
it's pretty cool. There's a lot of I've also now been responsible for matchmaking a couple that got married. Seriously. It was a
Lesbos,
US
I can say that I'm
yes,
gay.
that was oh yeah,
Of
no,
course.
of course it's lesbians. It happened in 1 year. So it was like the ultimate U-Haul story. So they were two different people, like different groups or whatever, who came for a US women's national team game in the Women's World Cup last year. And one was a solo and one was with a group. So I sat the group somewhere and then the solo came in and she was so great. I was like, I promise you I'm gonna put you at a place that's like nice so it's not gonna be awkward and you're in the door, you're lucky, right? And she's like, great. And 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 I was like, I know exactly where I'm gonna put them. And I
Lorraine, move
yes,
over.
yes. And so I totally sat her at this table and I could just tell they were already like vibing before I even walked away. They came in last week to tell me that they got married on their 1 year anniversary of meeting here.
I can't. I
It's so
cannot.
cute. It's so cute. I
Oh
know.
my God. I
We'll have
love
to
it.
start the Rough and Tumble matchmaking business too.
Oh my God. Well, I mean, all right. Let me just ask you one ridiculous question because you just
Mhm.
had the most adorable feel good lesbian question. But I was
Yeah.
thinking with all those women and my people, I can speak for my wonderful people.
Yeah.
You know, you get
Yeah.
a couple beers in us,
Hmm.
and then you get
Hmm.
some competitive sports on the TV. Um, how many Lisa and Pams have you had to throw out?
I haven't. Um, there's been some interesting stories here for sure. There's been some interesting
Give us
stories.
some dirt.
I mean, really, most of it, most people come in here, most queer people who want to maybe meet somebody, they're like, oh my gosh, like these are sporty lesbians too,
Yeah.
not like that's also a filter, right?
Yeah.
Um, so we've done one of my favorite things was our Pride speed dating event this year. And we had Jess Fishlock and her wife C, who are of course the anointed royal,
Yes.
like
Yes.
lesbian, amazing couple here. Um, they came in and did the speed dating with 90 lesbians and queer women doing speed dating. So 45 potential couples. And this place was just like, and then, we also had like another 200 people or something, I don't know, 150 people who could buy tickets to just like attend the party.
What? What?
I know.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, you have a watch party for lesbo speed dating? I am moving to Seattle.
Speed dating. And then the poor people who were all speed dating, like, were done and had to filter back out. And, it was like, I totally watched these women. They're like, okay, yeah, yeah, I'm not going to answer those questions, but I know how I'm going to find out when I'm done. And then the whole place turned into, a big dance party and it worked. So it was really fun. But back to the U-Haul story. Um, we rented a U-Haul and parked it out front
No,
and
I can't.
decorated it.
I can't. This is too much.
It had
This
like
is too much.
LED lights and like, oh, it was so cool. It was so cool. And we were doing like photo ops in there, like, come for speed dating, leave in a U-Haul. It was all the things. Yeah.
The, I'm just picturing the amount of jerseys under one roof must have been insane.
Yeah, it was a lot. Yeah, yeah. It's
I
great though.
I'm coming in and like judging or host something. I just have to, I'm going to get 20 minutes of jokes just out of that
Yeah.
one event.
Yeah,
That's
just one event.
incredible. Okay. A couple more things. OL Rain legend. We need to
Yes.
talk about this because this is the
I know.
coolest thing. Um, I didn't know the Rain had like a ring of honor or wherever you want to call
I
it, but
know.
you got a legendary status with the OL Rain, and I think that's the coolest thing ever. Like, what was that
It's
experience
one
like?
of the biggest honors. It was it was amazing. So they do so for each game they select one woman from the community who's done something that is worthy of being recognized. And there's I'm now in the company of like rocket scientists and physicians and U.S. women's national team players and like politicians. Like Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal and General Manager for the Reign, Leslie Gallimore, and Mary Harvey and Colleen Hacker. Like, how has this? How did I end up in there? I don't know. But I was unbelievably honored when they reached out to me to be the legend, the opening game legend in last season. And so that was just a lot of fun. It was a huge honor. And then I'm really excited because this coming Sunday is the jersey retirement event for Megan Rapinoe. And the Reign have invited all prior legends to join out on the pitch and then surround her on stage.
Wow.
So yeah, so
Wow.
it's gonna be, and Brandy Carlisle.
No. Oh
Yes,
my God, I'm flying
yes,
up.
I know.
I'm going to be in Florida,
Yeah.
unfortunately, but Christ, if I was home,
Cancel
I would be in a
cancel
high-speed
your
train.
plans. Yes, cancel your plans. Yeah, so it's
Wow. That's an
and
amazing. That's so
it
cool.
it really is. I mean, the list of women now over because it started, I think, in 2008. Um, so one game, one incredible, amazing woman per game is a lot of pretty awe-inspiring human beings. We just had our first ever, the Reign put together first ever like reunion of all the legends a couple weeks ago, and I could barely talk the whole way through. It's like all these amazing women. But then we were talking. We're like, look at this group. Like this group is changing the world.
Yeah.
Like the things and the power of women in that small group was pretty incredible. So yeah, it was a huge honor.
Well, I mean, change makers. You're throwing you're literally creating a community for all of Seattle. Of course, you should be recognized and put in that, league. I
Thank
mean,
you.
that's awesome. And now I'm
Thank
going to
you.
be moving in underneath the pool table. So
Yeah.
I'm very excited about my new plans. I can't wait to tell my partner. I think that's going to go really well.
Yeah, well, I
Um,
have two pool tables and they're pretty wide. You can turn one into a double.
I'll just push him in at night, slide my mat. Wow, Erin wasn't kidding. She's still here. This is getting embarrassing. All right, major news in your life.
Yeah.
In USL W League,
Mhm.
new team,
Yes.
which is a pre-professional women's soccer league that exists, but it's coming to
Yes.
Ballard, and you're
Yes.
an investor. I just was kind of reading all about it, but I didn't even know they were pre-professional
Yeah.
leagues. I'm like
Yeah.
learning all about this.
Well, it's
So
new.
that's so cool.
It's newish. It's been around a couple of years. So the USL on the men's side is a really critical part of that development pyramid. So on the men's side, well, men's and women's, you have MLS and NWSL up at the top, right? In the US. On the men's side, they have the USL side, which is like championship and USL 1, USL 2. And each one of these levels is part of a really important development structure, which helps these athletes grow, develop, have opportunities to get better and better and better, and increase the likelihood that they can play at the professional level. So on the women's side, that has not existed until a couple of years ago when USL added in the USL W structure. One of the biggest things is it creates more opportunities. Right now, your career in soccer is over at the end of college, unless you're lucky enough to go play at the NWSL US Women's National Team level, which is obviously a select number of human beings.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is, I mean, it is intentionally structured to kind of bring in college players. So it runs like the season's like May to July-ish, right? And so it runs during summer when, women players are finished with college and, having their summer off. So it's really exciting. We will be the first USLW team here in Seattle. And it's the league is growing very, very quickly over a couple of years. But being able to bring this team here is so important. It's creating opportunities for players that, like Jess Fishlock and Lou Barnes and a lot of players currently playing in the NWSL didn't have at all.
It's just going to propel the level of
Yeah.
soccer so much. And then, another league, is opening competitive to the NWSL. Just
Yeah, that's the
anytime
Premier
I
one. Yep.
see, yeah,
Yep.
any league opening in any sport, I just get so excited because I think, oh my God, this
So
is an
great.
opportunity for a woman to do something that she absolutely loves. Like it's
Yeah.
just it's like
It's
immediate joy, immediate joy.
it's immediate
Yeah.
joy. Listening to Lou talk about the fact that she did not have this as an opportunity is it's still kind of jarring, to be honest. This is a current NWSL player, did not have this kind of opportunity. And so it is really exciting. And I think, you know, part of why I wanted to bring Rough and Tumble into existence is to create opportunities for viewership and accessing women's sports viewers. But like being able to execute on the sort of the next level of that and bring execution to creating opportunities for women athletes to play is huge, because if you don't have that opportunity, there's nowhere for you to go. It's not as exciting to try a little bit harder and practice or whatever, right? And so one of the things that's also really cool about Rough and Tumble is that we're all ages. So we get tons of kids in here. And, the countless number of stories that I have of little girls looking up at the screens, watching these women play, and then realizing that they would like to go learn how to play basketball, learn how to play soccer, because they could have that as a potential job when they grow up. That's who they could be when they grow up.
It's incredible.
If we closed tomorrow, I would have done my job, right?
Yeah.
So,
That's awesome. All right. Last thing. I know you have not named the new team. I've got some pitches for you.
Oh, excellent.
See
I'll
if
pass them on.
maybe these could be the names. You
Okay.
ready? Rough and Tumblettes.
Okay.
You could just shake your head if I'm close. Seattle Storm 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Ooh, Boogaloo.
The Lady Pike Placers.
Oh, can we please include lady in it? Yeah,
Lady's
definitely
the best word ever.
It's gonna be the lady somethings for sure.
The Lady Pearl Jammers.
The lady Eddie Vedder.
The Lady Grungers. No, I'm stopping. I just was like,
they're really good. Did
you
you
don't
stay
have
up all night working on this?
At least 5 to 7 minutes before I hit record. That's what I put into it. I couldn't be more excited to come to your bar to do the show.
I can't wait for you to launch it all here. It's going to be so exciting.
I will at some point, I'll probably talk about this at the beginning of the episode, but no, I'm just, launching the Herlights tour at Rough and Tumble is like it's a dream. So it's full circle, women's sports in the heart of Seattle. And I'm so thrilled.
We can't wait. I'm so honored to be part of the launch of that. And it's just going to be so much fun.
Oh my God, we're gonna have a blast. You're opening right behind you. I'm gonna wave to all your customers. No, but thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking the time and just opening this and like doing it for women's sports, for women, for empowerment, for opportunity. The world thanks you.
Thank you so much. I can't wait for you to see it.
Jen Barnes, ladies and gentlemen, everyone go check out Rough and Tumble in Seattle. It sounds like such a magical place, and I cannot wait to see it. And yes, the cat is out of the bag. You heard it here first, folks. I'm taking Herlights on a 5-city tour starting on Saturday, October 5th at Rough and Tumble. I'm so fired up about this. I'm going to do 20, 25 minutes of stand up and then grab a couple of local women's sports celebrities in Seattle and do a Q&A for about 45 minutes to an hour. It's going to be so much fun. All the details will be at herlights.com. We should have the info up there by the end of the week or beginning of next. Seattle, Portland, Minneapolis, Chicago, and New York City. Stay tuned for more info. I'm so freaking excited. Okay, people, it's time for the feel-good moment of the week, and it's Sarah Adam. She's the first woman to play for the U.S. wheelchair rugby at the Paralympics. Also, she's the first woman to score in Team USA history, and she scored the team's first goal. She is crushing it on the court. She is such a badass. And her story is incredible. Okay. She was a fantastic athlete growing up. And then she got diagnosed with MS in 2016. And she said she went through this identity crisis because she'd always been so active her entire life. And she questioned what she was going to do. You know, she didn't want to sit there and watch everything get stripped away. So she starts playing wheelchair rugby competitively in 2019, then makes the US national team in 2021. Less than a year later, she wins gold at the Americas Championship and silver at the World Championships. Also, she's a professor of occupational therapy, working on enhancing independence and participation of individuals with a disability through exercise and adaptive sports. I mean, what a complete and utter rock star. She said, we all have something that we're working through. We all have some adversity in our life. We all have a disability of some sort. And so then it almost makes it easier to see us as a person first or as an athlete first, because the disability isn't highlighted as much as we all have one. That's what I've appreciated from the beginning. I'm going down. The waterworks have started. So feel good, so inspiring, and a total baller on the court. So watch her immediately. Okay, that is our episode. Please subscribe, 5 stars, leave a review. It is so important for the algorithms, the ad sales, all that stuff that I need to happen so I can keep doing this podcast because I'm absolutely obsessed with it. Also, a big shout out to Herlighters. KR_fan, who wrote such a great review entitled The Sports Talk We've Needed. That was super. You made my day. So I really appreciate it. So everybody, go online and leave an awesome review because it makes my day. Thank you so much. Fans, friends, family, have the best week of your life.